We are in the club today, joined by Jay Brown of Hub International, Vice President of Human Resources. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's always great to have guests in the club, and it's always great to highlight those folks that are doing incredible work. But I think it all starts with understanding what got you into human resources to begin with.
Yes.
So what does that journey look like, Jay? Is there someone that inspired you?
Mm-hmm.
What got you interested in that career to begin with?
So I thought that I wanted to be a physical therapist, actually.
Get out.
I did.
That is exactly what I thought I was going to be as well. Yes.
I did an internship and everything. Did you?
I volunteered at the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics for 4 years.
Yes.
That was what I thought I was going to be.
Oh, so our paths
Well, here we are on a
crossed
podcast.
Anyway. Yeah. I was so sure. I had the opportunity to volunteer and just do an unpaid internship with a friend of my mother's who was a sports therapist at Vanderbilt. And I'm from Nashville, so very familiar with Vanderbilt. And again, just thought, oh, this is pretty interesting. Now, I will say I was probably motivated by the athletes that came through daily. But I was convinced, like, I ran track in middle school and high school. So just the sports element of it all and just the campus, just the vibe, all of that. And I would say also just the interaction with people. I really enjoyed that piece.
Sure.
Well, got introduced to some of the different courses and did like an orientation. It was before we could actually apply to physical therapy school.
Sure.
But I learned very quickly that my stomach was a little weak.
That was not your path.
That was not my path. So I ended up interning with Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Okay.
And during that time in between the summer internships and being in school, and that was my sophomore year of school, I talked to career counselor at the campus.
Sure.
Said I wanted to be in a service type capacity. I, just talked about the things that I enjoyed, most importantly, connecting with people, serving people, supporting people. What could that look like? And so it was marketing, it was accounting, it was human resources were the three that I remember. So I worked with the advisor at the time for my internship to have the opportunity to work at the corporate office in Tennessee for Enterprise.
Okay.
And I split my internship between accounting and human resources. And the human resources split was at the end of my internship or the second half of my internship. Fell in love. Loved it, got exposed to, it was for a short time frame, right? But
sure.
Just got exposed to the type of work that they did, and most importantly, just the opportunity to help support and engage with people, problem solve, be a critical thinker, all of that. And I came back to school after that summer and started my degree process to move forward in business with a concentration in human resources, and rest is history.
Wow. I think it's always interesting to look at folks that have a mindset starting in healthcare, because there's that empathy element to what's drawing you to that, and how there are career pivots that happen, and you never know where that path is going to take you and what doors may or may not open. And I shared a similar experience where there was certain things fundamental to what drew me to physical therapy. I made it a little further down the chain there, where I made it to the point of going to grad school, and that just didn't work out at the grad school level. So I had that pivot a little bit later in my academic journey. But understanding, well, how can I problem solve? And ultimately, that's what was part of what I was enjoying, and ended up stumbling into some sales opportunities and realized, oh, actually, I really enjoy that. And the idea of solving people's problems just in a different context. So that's interesting.
Yes.
So UT Chattanooga is where it all began for you.
Yes.
Go Mocs.
Yes.
And I think it's one of those things where you look at, you spent a lot of time there, bachelor's degree from there, MBA. So you're a Moc through and through.
I am.
And when it comes to students that are in college now, like what words of advice would you give to some current Mocs? How you get your feet wet in HR, and what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, I would say I've talked to individuals that would say they never really took advantage of the career services department. And
I was one of those students.
And I don't, you know what? Yeah. I don't know that I would have had it not been for this experience of recognizing physical therapy is not my pathway.
Right.
I don't know that I would have, taken advantage of it. And I think that it is an untapped resource that can be really helpful in helping you to kind of find your path or explore different options that are available to you that you might not even think of. I'd never even heard of human resources, so I never would have really, at some point I'm sure, but during that time frame, I don't know that I would have gotten the exposure to it and really been able to connect the dots to something that I am really passionate about now. So I'd say absolutely leverage career services or whatever equivalent department exists on your campuses. And then I would also say internships are really key. That probably goes without saying for a number of people, but some people never have an internship.
Sure.
And I think an internship or some sort of opportunity, whether it's volunteering like you talked about, some way to really get some exposure to what is happening or what will happen from a day-to-day perspective in that job, in that industry, being able to ask questions, being able to job shadow. I think that is really just a priceless opportunity that gives you the opportunity to test out and interview, the company. And then also, of course, the company has the opportunity to test it out with you. So career services and internship and or volunteer opportunities are they're golden.
Yeah. I think that's, wise words. It's anytime you get that exposure and that ability to network. We talk about networking all the time internally here. And as the profession grows, whether it's human resources, sales, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're looking to find those peers and you're looking to find that professional network that can help open doors and give you knowledge as to what maybe something's all about that you don't know a lot about.
That's right.
And, to that point, I know you're also involved a little bit with SHRM. So there's a local Chicago chapter, and I believe a new role for you coming in.
Yeah, a new role coming in. I'm currently the vice president of Chicago SHRM and president-elect. So
no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. No pressure.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then is that also a national organization that?
Yes, we are a local chapter of the National Society for HR Management, or SHRM.
Okay.
And we actually just stepped off of the National SHRM conference that was hosted here in Chicago at McCormick Place.
Sure.
26,000 attendees.
26. That's an arena.
It felt like an arena. We did have some individuals that were able to register virtually as well, which was also kind of cool that they could experience the conference even if they weren't able to join in person. But the bulk of that was in person, and let me tell you, my gym shoes got a good workout. I got a good workout. It was a great experience.
You talk about networking. That is, oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. You're so right. I think about, I liken it to in college where you build that community.
Right.
And so when you are able to join organizations like Chicago SHRM, you build a community. And this is my HR community. I've been involved with the organization since at least 2017 as a volunteer in some capacity. And I just love it. And so it was extremely energizing to see that local community times 100, essentially, with all these individuals that were here for the conference.
Yeah. So SHRM, then, fill me in a little bit of what that's all about. What does it do as an organization to provide that network for professionals?
Yeah, absolutely. So SHRM is an incredible community of HR professionals, resources, really the opportunity to develop HR practitioners at all different levels to be great business partners.
Okay.
Also provides a lot of really great, like I said, resources and templates, especially to individuals that are maybe HR departments of one or advancing into different levels of their career as well. So there are many different sort of groups within SHRM that you can be part of, both at the national level, but also locally, like Chicago SHRM,
right,
where you're engaging with HR professionals that are across Chicagoland.
Sure.
But there's multiple, chapters even outside of Chicago as well. And again, that's really across the U.S. and internationally too.
Yeah.
So,
I would imagine you have them in most of the metropolitan areas.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And even outside of the metropolitan areas. But it's it's my it's one of my go-to resources in addition to the local resources that we provide.
Sure.
Being a part of SHRM at the national level, being a member gives you access to a lot of resources. And so when I think about, when I was newly starting out at my career and maybe I needed to have a template for managing a performance conversation, I go to the website, I go to the community, the online community where you can ask questions, or I go to the resource library and I pull up a resource, some sort of template to help me get started, and or I watch some sort of webinar about that particular topic. So it is a growing, just priceless resource that individuals can tap into, both from that perspective, but also with building your network and building your community.
You took the words out of my mouth. I feel like building a community, that is really what that is.
Yes, powerful.
And I think that phrase gets used a lot, but to me, a community, you're able to lean on each other.
That's right.
And help each other in those moments where you're trying to learn something. So that's incredible work that you're all coming together and doing that for your profession, for your craft. Very cool. And the local approach versus the national approach. Right. Ultimately, you're a master connector, as it says on your LinkedIn. And I think that all ties back to SHRM and the work you do in HR and your career path through, your network even back at UT Chattanooga. So when it comes to your background in talent acquisition and recruiting, how does that all come together with branding to ultimately make this something where you're able to touch different functions of the company?
Yeah, so I started my career in HR in talent acquisition, and now I have the opportunity to manage a team of talent acquisition professionals. And I often will go back to the time when I was in talent acquisition. There were a lot of great lessons that I learned from there. Ultimately, and this has held true, you are essentially the first person that a prospective employee or candidate or applicant has the opportunity to interface with as an ambassador for that company.
That's a big responsibility.
Powerful. It's a huge responsibility.
You're the face of the brand.
You're the face of the brand.
Yeah.
So branding starts before somebody comes in the door.
Sure.
It's how we show up on the college campuses. It's how we show up with the associations or organizations that we work with. It's how we show up on the call when we're screening a prospective employee. It's all of those elements that give somebody the opportunity to experience who we are as an organization and get a glimpse into the culture that exists for the company. So I think branding is like through and through so critical. Even when you don't think about it, it really is your branding from the moment that you engage with a prospective employee.
Well, and I love all those points you call out, from how you carry yourself to how you show up to the messaging you have to how you present yourself. You didn't mention the logo. And I think that's a usual misconception with branding, is it's not just all about a logo. There's so much more to a brand than the graphic element that is there. Yes, that's right. Part of it. But I'm glad that you called those things out. So when it comes to, how you engage with folks on the recruiting front and that talent acquisition conversation, how does that set the stage then for initiatives you might have as a company from a growth perspective or from whatever you might be trying to navigate on a recruiting front?
Yeah. So, you talk about the logo, and I would say, I don't know many people that don't like to receive a little bit of swag.
Yeah.
Right? Or
makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good. Yeah. Even like representing the colors of the company, obviously wearing the logo or showcasing the logo in some way.
You want to take pride in where you're looking to join or where you have joined. And a lot of that all comes back to those colors of the brand,
Yep.
the logos, obviously, but also how you present yourself.
That's right.
There's a certain vibe, if you will,
Yes.
of the brand.
There is.
Yes.
And there's, we think about if you've been to any sort of event, whether it's a sporting event, a big brand opportunity, obviously, like a sporting event, career fair, any sort of event where you have the opportunity to see people representing whatever that brand is.
Right.
There's something that makes you curious, or there's something that makes you, want to connect in, or also like be a part of that community,
Sure.
if you will. So we take a lot of pride in, and we've been able to do this through this incredible partnership with Club Colors.
Oh, thank you.
Shout out to Leah.
Leah's a great one. Shout out to Leah.
Yes. And, it's been an incredible sort of experience for me, I will say, in this role that I'm in, to partner with you, Chris, your team, with Leah, with Club Colors, just broadly on the vision that we want to create to welcome people into our community.
Right.
So this all started with the team. For me, this relationship started with internship program, and trying to think of ways to keep the interns that started with us warm.
Sure.
After we had extended offers to them last year.
Okay.
And so to come together.
It's that conversion you're looking for.
It's the conversion, yes.
Yes.
Because they were going into their senior year.
Yeah.
Yes, they had offers in hand, but we wanted to stay like front and center with them.
Right.
And so I loved the experience of us being able to bring that vision to life. And then it morphed into, let's revisit our new hire kits.
Yeah.
And what could we give that would be, fun, that would be useful, and that would, of course, scream Hub International, like
Sure.
come join Hub International. And so, again, went through that same sort of visioning experience, got great feedback from employees, both those that were newer in career and others that were tenured. What would you like, if you were on the other side?
That's a great point, is engaging your target audience with
Yes.
what would you like?
That's
What is
right.
interesting to you?
That's right.
And not just guessing, cross your fingers, hope it works.
Exactly. Not the
Yes.
same old, just wanted to try
Yeah.
some new things with the feedback, to your point, from the employees. So it's before somebody joins, we've been able to leverage the brand once somebody joins, or at
Sure.
least they say they're, going to join us. And then once they come on board as well, from a recognition perspective too,
Yeah.
being able to create pop-up shops.
Yes.
Just learned that. So pop-up shops, being able to create, one of the things I'm really proud of is we got this feedback from employees around when they were celebrating their milestone anniversaries, or hub-anniversaries as we call them.
Hub-anniversary, I love it.
Hub-anniversaries.
Even brand that.
That's right. That's right. We say it all the time now. We always get the spell check thumbs up when
I
it says
bet.
it, but we're still sticking with it.
Yeah.
But starting at 5 years, wanted to create for our region a different experience, kind of an elevated experience for somebody that had met one of those milestones.
Sure.
And so created this customized site in partnership with you all. And the feedback that we've gotten has been incredible. It was listening to the voice of our employees, and then being able to work with you all as the architects.
Sure.
To create this experience for our employees, to demonstrate how much we truly value the service that they give to us each and every day. And that helps to elevate and helps to accelerate the brand sort of ambassadorship. That's a word. They become
We'll roll
brand
with it.
ambassadors. Make that word up. But they become brand ambassadors, and even more so, they're more connected to the brand because of how we make them feel.
And that's what it's all about, is creating that feeling. And that feeling is what people will take with them to maybe have that conversion decision a little easier.
That's right.
I had my internship. It was a great experience. I'm not quite so sure. Oh, this just showed up.
Right.
Now this is a no-brainer for me.
Yes.
And
then
that's,
I'll refer people.
Yeah. And I think that's, when we look at HR through a couple different lenses, whether it's the corporate side of our business or our collegiate side of the business, it's a common conversation we see is this retention of talent or this retention of potential recruits and converting them to actual employees or converting them to retained employees. And the shop that you're mentioning is a great tool to help you achieve just that.
Yes.
It allows you to empower the employee with choice. It allows you to bring interesting and innovative products that are part of the brand to life. So I love that you're putting it to use and you're getting impact how we want you to get an impact.
We absolutely are.
So we talked a little bit about you being at Hub. What started your Hub journey? How did you join Hub?
Oh man.
What drew you to Hub?
Yes. So in full transparency, I had no idea what a hub was, or I'd never heard of the organization.
Sure.
But I started my career in the insurance industry. And when I received a LinkedIn message about this opportunity to join Hub as an HR director for their Midwest West region,
Sure.
I was intrigued.
So were you part of the recruiting effort on the other side?
Well, yes.
Yes.
So I experienced it from the other side. Absolutely. Yep, you're exactly right. So I had to take a step back, though. I had written, I did a vision exercise.
Sure.
And I was kind of at the stage in my career where I was thinking about what was next. And at the time, it was what was next within my current organization. I wasn't even thinking externally.
Sure.
But I made a list of everything that I was looking for in my next opportunity. And I was really trying to challenge myself in my next opportunity. So fast forward, I get contacted on LinkedIn about this role.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. And I kind of knew when I looked it up, I started to see some individuals that I was kind of familiar with. I had worked with in former life, or I had networked.
From your network?
Exactly. From my community, right? And so I was like, okay, let me check this out. So fast forward, it ended up sounding like an incredible opportunity for me to really challenge myself to actually pivot back into the insurance industry, but just on a different side now versus carrier. I'm on the broker side. And still be local. I mean, my roots are now here with my family, and so I really wasn't looking to relocate.
Sure.
And it just made sense after going through the different stages of the interview. And in particular, my CEO and president, my now regional CEO and president, and members of the executive team, spending time with each of those individuals, plus the individuals that I would ultimately end up having the fortune of being part of my team, hearing each of them share their why.
It's huge.
Right? It was huge. And there were so many similarities. Like it just sort of weaved through, the themes that weaved through every single conversation. And that drew me in.
Sure.
And
I mean, I love that transparency from leadership to talk about their whys, though. And that's something we do internally here. It's a big exercise we go through at the start of every year. We'll have our kickoff at the start of the year, and we challenge each other to think through that, because it might change over time.
Oh, absolutely.
And frankly, it should probably change over time. But
it should.
Having that transparency with leadership, it goes such a long way to just humanizing that connection and that community that you're building.
That's right.
I love that. Yeah. So for our listeners that maybe aren't also as familiar with the insurance world and Hub International, Hub International, top 5 brokerage and financial services firm, 16,000 employees across 537 offices, U.S., Canada, and Puerto Rico, $3.8 billion in revenue. And your mission, I think this is the thing that's most interesting, to protect and support the aspirations of individuals, families, and businesses, and to empower our employees to learn, grow, and make a difference in their communities. So when we talk about a mission like that, that is fundamental to a brand. Talk a little bit about that. How does that mission bleed into your work?
It is a core component of the work that, of course, we do from a HR or people and culture standpoint. Yeah. But it also is a way to bring all employees along on that journey. We actually, during the pandemic, there was this passion and kind of energy from employees, no matter what geography you were in, to, and I'm going back to the word community, build community, to support each other, to learn from each other. And through that, there were opportunities for us to volunteer as an organization, to, donate to causes that were important to us, but also to create these grassroots organizations or employee groups across the organization in different dimensions of diversity. So you had a military voices group, you had a Hispanic voices group. We already had a Hub Women Network.
Little affinity groups. Almost.
Little affinity. That's exactly right. Yeah. We already had a Hub Women Network, employee resource group or affinity group. We created a Hub Black Inclusion employee resource group, and diversity inclusion councils started to form. And part of that was connecting to each other, learning from each other, but then also giving back to the community through volunteer efforts. Also like mobilized in-person volunteer efforts where that was possible, and obviously more so possible now post the pandemic as well. But these are people, employees, again, that are committed and passionate, that work in all different areas of our organization, service side, sales side, back office side. Like, it doesn't matter what, entry level to the most tenured individuals, serving as ambassadors, champions, again, sort of making those connections to organizations that are near and dear to them and bringing other employees along. I think it's the spirit of Hub. And what I have said multiple times, and I meant it then and I mean it to this day, through that experience, through the beginning of that journey, for me, it allowed me to see the heart of Hub. And it's the focus on our people is a huge core value. And you hear it in almost every communication. You see it in every communication, whether it's locally or from our CEO and president, Mark Cohen. Like you hear it from the top throughout the organization, and you see it in action as well. So I love that.
I mean, I think that time period too, if we go back in time, that really tested a lot of mission statements of companies and tested those core values. And, we developed a saying, we saw it on the tour today, opportunity grows from the roots of adversity. It's something that we have right down the hallway here. And I think the fact you were able to bring communities together in a time where people were looking to relate to others, to find that common ground, that's such a cool thing to do, and a way to really build many brands within the brand too, in a lot of ways. I would imagine each of those groups have an identity that they're trying to bring to each other and find ways to be united in that sense. That's
exactly right. Even though the missions may sound different, the tenets are all, very similar. And our diversity, equity, inclusion, and community strategy is centered around talent, culture, and community. So again, there it is again.
Yeah, all goes back to making a difference in those communities.
Communities, internal and external.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about the different affinity groups, bringing employees on. I would imagine that's part of that process now that you've established these different groups, that welcoming of new employees. These are resources that are available to you, and the excitement that you build around that onboarding journey for employees, and the brand comes into that.
That's right.
So talk a little bit about what that onboarding process looks like. If you join Hub, what does it look like?
Yes. So this actually has been a really big project that has been one of 6 major projects that the organization, the People and Culture or 1HR organization has been leading. And so one of the things that was really important to our chief HR officer, to our CEO, and really locally with all of the field HR leadership as well, as corporate leadership, was that we created a consistent process and experience for, let me actually remove process. It's more a consistent experience for every employee that joined Hub, right? And the reason why I pull out process is because that process may look different depending on where you are, but the experience should feel the same.
Yeah, you should have that shared experience, whether you joined at the Chicago location or San Francisco location,
That's
wherever
right.
you are.
That's right.
This is what it feels like to join this organization.
That's right.
And you want that brand consistency and all those touch points to speak the same language.
That's right.
Yes.
That's exactly right. So part of that effort was creating a terminology list.
Sure.
We use so many acronyms. I'm sure you all probably do too.
There's always an acronym.
Right. There's always an acronym, and sometimes the acronyms mean multiple things. So
Yeah.
there's terminology checklists. There's a listing of and a way to connect with each of the different affinity groups or employee groups. There is, the welcome message from our CEO. There's a lot of, again, just resources and templates and tools and such that every single employee should have access to.
Sure.
And then what I love is that we then empower the regions or field teams to create their own spin beyond that and really talk about and allow that employee, when they're joining your hub or region, to experience your culture. So for my culture, or for our region, Midwest West, we like to refer to ourselves as having a winning culture.
Okay.
And it's all centered around everyone being aligned, accountable, and appreciative. We are able, as the people and culture team for Midwest West, create and bring that experience to life in partnership with our business leaders and honestly every employee that is already part of Hub in order to welcome our new hires. So it's our CHRO says is as consistent as possible, as different as necessary.
Oh,
so we're
like
trying
that.
to create, right? So we're trying to, again, create a consistent.
You don't want to be cookie cutter at the same time.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So we have kind of the best of both worlds. Where there needs to be consistency, we create that, or we are creating that. And then where there's these opportunities and the necessity to create some difference, some uniqueness, some diversity.
Sure.
We have that autonomy to do that as well.
Okay.
Love, love, love the direction that we have gone as an organization. And that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah.